Chevy Vega fuel systems are only known for doing a couple of things, and neither one of them is good. We're going to take care of that this time on Burnouts and Rotorblades. Welcome to the Burnouts and Rotorblades YouTube channel. Let's go do something awesome. We've done a ton of work to this car to bring it up to the point where it is, and we still got a lot of work to do. But the next big thing that is really hindering its reliability is its fuel system. I want to take this opportunity to talk to you guys about something that just happened to me. The car just stopped running. It was running great. We're driving down the road, and then it just stopped. I just happened to have an empty water bottle, and I dipped this fuel line down into the water bottle and gave it a crank. As you can see, the fuel system's not doing a good job of getting fuel from the tank up to the carburetor. So the next step was to go to the in line, which is this line right here, of the fuel pump, which is that right there. It comes from the tank, and I would have expected, this run of it to be full of fuel, and it wasn't. So let's go to the back of the car and see what else there was. Between the gas tank and the carburetor, there's this 1970s era electric fuel pump that no longer works. So we'll throw that in the bin along with this 7 miles of electrical wiring we don't need any longer. I want to put this rebuildable filter. Now, this rebuildable filter is pretty neat, and it'll just go into place to replace this parts store filter that spills fuel everywhere. Now we'll jump to the back of the car. I'll put one back there as well and show you what the insides look like. When working on fuel lines, tie a red rag around your wrist to keep the fuel from flowing all the way to your armpit. So the next time you look up, it'll be fuel filter. So I trashed that dollar store fuel pump that didn't work and replaced it with this Holley rebuildable fuel filter. Its split design allows me to tear it apart should I run into a problem, put it back together on the side of the road, and be back on my way. I wish it was just that simple, but unfortunately I found myself on the side of the road cleaning out this little filter more than a half a dozen times. So we have to dig deeper and find out what the real problems are. The tank has some junk inside of it. The fuel pump is not putting out as much as I want, and I'm pretty sure on hot days it does what a lot of Vegas do, and it vapor locks the fuel system. So we're going to take care of those things today. Tank's up. Oh yeah. Compared to you guys up north, I'm sure this isn't going to seem like a whole lot of rust, but to me it's a pretty substantial amount, and it was definitely enough to clog the little filter that I had in place. As far as corrosion inside the tank, the bottom looks pretty solid, but the top of the tank, it needs a little bit of love, which we'll take care of in a little bit. The components inside the tank were definitely showing their age and in need of replacement as well. After giving the inside of the tank a good cleaning with some brake clean, this is all the crap that had come out into the drain pan. Now these little fuel filters did a really good job of getting rid of all the crap that would have ended up in our carburetor. This only had about 4 drives on it before it was completely clogged to the point where it wouldn't even run the engine anymore. But I'll tell you what, they were definitely worth the price that I paid once you look at everything that was inside of them. Now it's time to take our fuel system game up a notch, and in order to do that, I bought an assortment of things: a 10 micron fuel filter, higher capacity mechanical fuel pump that we're going to put on, some line that is going to replace some of this super old cracking line. Then I'm going to do something that I did on the family burnout wagon. The evap system for these old cars has a tube that runs all the way from the tank all the way up to where a charcoal canister would be. That means that there's 2 hard lines that run all the way from the back of the car at the gas tank all the way to the front. And with a little bit of massaging, I think we can turn one of those lines into a return line. Having a return style fuel system should help us combat our problem with vapor lock, and I'm going to use a fuel pressure regulator that I got laying around from the family burnout wagon when I went to a Boost referenced fuel pressure regulator to throw on Vega here. Plumbing in this 10 micron fuel filter should be pretty simple, as we take the hard line that runs to the fuel pump here and route it to the inside of the fuel filter. We'll run soft line from the fuel filter back down to the pump, and then we'll use some of the excess hard line from our vent line to make a hard line from our fuel pump back to the carb. Cutting and bending fuel line has always been the easy part, but making it safe by flaring it so that your clamp doesn't slide off the end has always been a little more difficult. Well, for that, let me introduce you to the newest toy that I have here at the Burnouts and Rotorblades shop, and it's a tubing flare tool. This tool allows you to make that flared end whenever you cut a new piece of hard line, so that whenever you put a piece of rubber line over the top of it and clamp it down, it doesn't go sliding off the end, which is really, really important for the fuel lines that we're about to make up for this car that I haul my family around in. This Graham manufacturing tool is very simple to use, and once you have your tubing cut to the desired size and the end cleaned up, you slide it over the die on the tool. After that, it's just a matter of tightening down the knob and rotating the tube around till you reach your desired amount of flare. Speaking of making modifications for safety, I used this piece of yarn I found on the floorboard of my car to make an impromptu throttle cable hold down. Throttle cables with a big kink in it like this are notorious in V8 Swap Vegas, so I bought some things on Summit to help remedy that situation, and here's what it looks like when it's all put together. Now it's time to work on all that stuff we took out of the tank earlier, starting with the fuel quantity sensor. It gets nothing. And if I wiggle this just a little, you can see this guy is loose and just comes right off. Probably got a little corrosion, so I'm going to clean all this up, resolder that back on there. Unfortunately, I spend quite a bit of time soldering this old fuel level sender back together. Whenever I went to test it, it initially looked pretty good, but in subsequent tests right before I reinstalled it, it was jumping all over the place. Here's a look at it doing what it's supposed to be doing, kinda. It's supposed to be a 0 to 90 and it rests at 15. Not a thumbs up. Next thing we're going to test is the actual pump itself and see if that pump works, because that'd be really cool. And that pump's not working. After quite a bit of internet searching, I found this Airtex pump, which flows 20 to 35 gallons per hour at 46 psi. It's a perfect setup for our carb small block 283 in the Vega, and at $40 it was not a bad price either. Part number's E2485, and after all that work to this pump setup, I want to make sure that the pump actually works. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to use the engine as the ground, and I'm just going to run this little jumper wire to the battery, and it sounds like it works to me. Every car guy knows to check it twice. Fuel pump operation on these Vegas is governed by an oil pressure switch located on the back of the block. It runs through this wiring harness, and the only way to get the pump to run whenever you turn the key on is to jumper the appropriate leads. So I did that here with this very simple jumper and installed it semi-permanently. Alright, tuning our gas tank is the last piece of this puzzle, and also converting it into a return style system. Over here is where the pickup and the fuel pump are going to go in. And then over here is where this little guy right here goes. It is a vent. It had some foam inside of there, which I had to bend these little tabs down and scrape all that stuff out of there so it wouldn't end up in the tank. But what we're going to do is, since it's just this tube that goes in, and I bent these down already, that's where I'm going to run my return into. So the return's going to sit like that. The next thing we're going to do, or the thing I've been working on right now, is cleaning out this tank that was completely full of just rust and debris. Hit it with the vacuum cleaner. My hands are too big to fit in these holes, so I hired some neighborhood kids to scrub it out with, I didn't really do that. I scrubbed it as best I could with some Scotch-Brite pads, And then I used the Pour 15 kit that I bought off of Amazon. This is the degreaser. Followed the instructions, did that, that's done. And then we're on to the metal prep. And after that, we'll do this little guy here. Be warned, it says on here that it needs 96 hours to dry. Big surprise to me. So 96 hours to dry. It has taken me literally all day to go through all the steps of cleaning that this thing requires. I've been doing it by the book for wait times, and I'm only on the metal prep. So you basically want to dry this out with a heat gun, and then whenever you're done with that, go immediately to this, and then you just kind of swirl this around nice and slow. If it's not that way, I'll let you know, but that is the plan for right now. Oh, scheisse. It says to tape off the openings and then swirl it around, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Here goes. Oh, yep, on the top. That is it for us. And see you in 96 hours. Well, 96 and a half hours. So, started the clock. For my first time doing it, it came out pretty well, and it is a huge improvement over the rusty mess that was in there before. Hopefully it lasts a long time. Good enough.
My dad brought me a police car, and then I got Gatorade, and then we went back home.
Where did we get that stuff at?
At the
Car parts store.
At the car parts store.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Alright, so I'm pretty excited. We're really close. Took this thing for a test drive last night and it didn't go well, but I'm assuming that it has to do with the fact that I made zero effort to adjust anything in the fuel pressure regulator after doing a complete redo on the entire fuel system. So we're going to do that. I bought a gauge, I put it on the fuel pressure regulator. We're going to adjust the fuel pressure regulator, we're going to adjust the floats, and then we're going to take this thing and blow some tires off.
Blow some tires off?
Yeah. Now we got front and rear float bowls adjusted properly, and now we can take this thing for a spin. After having driven around with this this fuel setup for a couple of weeks, I can tell you it works really well. I haven't had any issues with fuel starvation. I haven't had any issues with the fuel system whatsoever. Although there are a couple things that made me nervous when I was driving around. One of which was I could hear the tank popping out because, well, this old fuel cap that has been on the car since I don't know when is junk. So I ordered a new one, and it came in the mail as a direct replacement. Amazon and O'Reilly's online and all that stuff said that it was also good, but guess what? It didn't vent worth a crap either. So, yep, I missed. So I ordered this Motard unit. It's a locking unit, which may prevent somebody else from taking the gas out of my tank, and also it keeps the tank from swelling up too much. Whenever I'd pop those other gas caps off, it would be a pretty solid rush of pressurized air out of the thing. There's still a little bit of back pressure inside of this whenever I take it off, but it's not nearly as bad. That wraps up our video here on the Vega. If you like what you've seen, go ahead and smash that subscribe button for me and give it a thumbs up. Send it to your friends, whatever. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and come back for the next one. Chevy Vega fuel systems are only doing, no,